Hey guys, Kyle the Death Knight of Anime here, bringing you my review for Black Clover episode 49. So, this is an interesting episode because if you really think about it, in terms of the fight between the Black Bulls and Vetto in this episode, even though Aston and the Black Bulls failed to actually defeat Vetto, they still technically won because you need to really look at what Vetto represents as a person, as a character, in order to understand what I mean by them winning. Like, Vetto's shtick this whole time has been despair and breaking others to the point of feeling that feeling that before killing them. But in the case of this fight with the Black Bulls, like this whole fight has basically marked the first time where he's actually failed to instill that raw fear and desperation into someone. And while that's been you could say that's been the whole theme of this fight to begin with, of him just failing to incite fear and desperation into Asta and the Black Bulls. Even though you could say that's been the whole theme this whole time, with this episode, this is basically the episode where it's come full circle, and in more than an ironic end, Vetto pretty much became what he was always hoping. Vetto basically became what he was always wanting to basically create. He wanted to make the world feel basically despair, agony, fear, all that kind of stuff. But in the end, he was the one who ended up feeling basically the fear and despair that he's caused in others in order at being unable to break the Black Bulls. So it's very much a scenario where the Black Bulls may have lost the battle, but they still won the war. And yeah, pretty much Vetto's whole thing of basically causing and basically Vetto pretty much became what he's pretty much ended up becoming what he's always wanted to create. What he's always tried to create in others. So it's, yeah, a very ironic end for that guy. And I can see it kind of being a thing with the whole. I can kind of see it with basically with the other two members of the Third Eye, that it's going to be kind of a similar situation with the Seven Deadly Sins and Full Metal Alchemist, where the remaining two members are probably going to have a bit of probably face a bit of an ironic defeat, pretty much the same way that Vetto did, because yeah, like Vetto's defeat was just pure irony in itself. Now having said that, I will acknowledge that there is in fact a friendship aspect to basically how Vetto was defeated in this episode. But even acknowledging that there was a friendship aspect to the whole defeat of Vetto in this episode, I think it still kind of worked. Like it still worked in the sense where, yeah, even though it was kind of the friendship that defeated Vetto, it still worked because it basically kept them from pretty much feeling any sort of the despair that Vetto was trying to create. So yeah, in that sense, it works. Now, pacing wise, I gotta admit this is actually one of the weirder episodes, because the beginning and near the end, around maybe around the 15-minute mark, maybe, those moments of the episode were the hypest part of the episode. But it was around the middle point where things kind of slowed down, and I'm not talking about the Vetto backstory, because that was pretty cool, but the part where the Black Bulls were talking amongst themselves with each other after having supposedly defeated Vetto at the time, it just them sitting around talking, just that one little bit, it felt a lot slower than what it was. I mean, I think from what I timed it at, I think the episode that particular portion of them just talking, I think that only lasted maybe about a minute and a half or 2 minutes, but it strangely felt longer than that, and I felt like there was at least a good part of it that could have been trimmed down. Like I said, I think it lasted for. I think that particular portion lasted for about 2 minutes, so maybe if you just trimmed like a minute off that it would have been good or something. I don't know. It's one of those weird things where basically 80%, basically 85% of this episode was amazing, but then that 15%, again, particularly the part where the Black Bulls were just talking, really felt like it could have been trimmed or something like that. But on the flip side of the pacing being a little off in certain areas, the art and animation in this episode was amazing. Like, it was basically, I'm pretty sure that there was kind of a Sakuga animation used, and like the animation in this episode was off the charts in this episode, and it's one of those things where I would have thought after what happened with, I would have thought the animation would at the very least would have suffered the most after having what happened to Studio Drop, but like everything was on point or nearly on point in this episode. Like even after losing Studio Drops, pretty much Piero ended up bringing their pretty much A game to this episode with the art and animation, and like I think there was a few minor flops that I noticed, but yeah, I think this was some of the best action. I think this is some of the best animation I've seen since basically the licked fight, to be honest with you. Like, everything was just so... I think part of the reason as to why this episode was definitely so hyped for me was, in fact, because of how good the art and animation was in this episode. Like, pretty much Piero just pretty much delivered in every aspect on the art and animation. Like, again, the licked... I haven't seen art and animation this good since the licked fight, and honestly, I think even this stuff... Even the art and animation here even outdoes the licked fight in a way. So, yeah, Piero, good on you for bringing your A game, art and animation wise. So the episode ends with Yami basically delivering the final blow to Vetto, which honestly is one of those things where for basically out of nowhere, as that might seem, of Yami just kind of swinging his sword like that with his powerful blow as he did. That's kind of one of those things where, for out of nowhere as it is, it might seem. I think it was one of those things where I don't know for sure, but that whole ending, looking back on it from reading the manga, it did feel like that was one of those things where basically where the creators probably thought that was the only way that they could actually pretty much defeat Vetto in the end. Although Vetto in the end, like I think with basically the manga artist with basically Tabata Yuki, I think that was probably one of those things where it was probably the only way you could think of defeating Vetto at that time. So yeah, you kind of have to, I guess, just accept it for what it is. Although story-wise, I think, although on a story level, this definitely does kind of make me wonder as to how the next two episodes are going to play out. I mean, at best, I think this means that the next two episodes are probably just going to be wrap up. Although at the same time, like, even though they're going to be wrap up to the series, I'm wondering constantly as to how they're going to wrap this up, because how they're going to wrap this up, because I imagine the thing we need to know almost immediately is that there's only basically a single chapter in order to adapt after this, in order to basically end this whole arc. So with that said, I imagine how it's going to go is that one or both of the last two episodes are going to be heavily padded out, because we basically, like I said, we really only have one chapter of this arc to adapt. So what's probably going to happen is the that one episode is going to adapt the last chapter with filler scenes, and the other is going to be a pure filler episode in order to end things off. Like it's going to be in either order. It's going to be either one or it's going to be definitely one of those scenarios. So I guess it really all depends on what they end up doing. Now let's talk briefly about the whole thing with Asta's demon possessing him in this episode, because having read the manga, from what I read, I can safely say that's actually still one of the things that hasn't been that the whole secret behind the demon shadow that's possessing Asta is still like not revealed yet. But at the very least, we can confirm, I think, that it is connected to his swords from this episode. But as far as where it came from, yeah, nothing yet. And this episode just made me hope that basically the mangaka is almost ready to reveal it soon. Because yeah, I want to know exactly what the secret behind that one is. But yeah, guys, that's my review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe, follow me on Twitter and Facebook. That and that of anime. Signing off. Later, guys.